Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in Ms. Marvel, Episode 5. So, we finally get some answers about the bangle and the Trail of Stars, but this episode opens up a lot of questions, like, does this time travel open up a branching timeline? Shouldn't Kamala be getting arrested by the TVA? And did Najma really give up that easily, and what's going on with Kamran now? We've got answers, but first, Easter eggs.
Yes! Yes!
The Marvel Studios logo slowly transitions into the sepia film of an old Bollywood movie. The song here is Tu Mera Chand from the 1949 Bollywood movie Dil Aagi. A popular movie for the time period, Dil Aagi's plot was adapted from Wuthering Heights by William Wyler. The song Tu Mera Chand is a Hindi love song, which could describe the relationship between Aisha and Hassan. Then notice how after a flicker, it's in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Now this is of course the aspect ratio that television's used for decades, but before the 1950s, feature films were also shot in 4:3. So this is the right way to watch The Wizard of Oz. The opening is set up as a newsreel, getting the audience caught up on the British colonialization of India and the partition between India and Pakistan. It was a little weird that the reel was supposed to be British, but sounded very anti-British.
After almost 200 years of oppressive British rule, India is free.
Using phrases like India gains independence from British rule, where the actual reels at the time would have been way more pro-empire and racist. We also see a few historical figures, including Prime Minister Nehru and Muhammad al-Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, who was in this mural here in the last episode. Then we get to Aisha running from the British forces that were attacking the temple when the jinn got the bangle. Now, I'm actually wondering if they were attacked because the British were occupying the temple, as they took over many Indian cultural sites during the occupation, or maybe this soldier was actually an agent of the 10 Rings. Remember, the temple had the 10 Rings insignia on the floor, so this soldier could secretly have been a sleeper agent working for Wen Wu, guarding the temple from trespassers. Doug, who's this person in the background?
Tua madre.
Ah, you got me. Doug just said that's my mom in Italian. We're learning Italian with Babbel. They're the sponsor of this video. Babbel helps you to start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. And if you've ever thought about learning a new language but you were too intimidated, then Babbel is the perfect app for you. See, I've been using it because I'm going on a summer adventure to Italy in just a few months. So I've been using the lessons that are specifically made for traveling. For instance, I'm doing a lesson right now.
E tu, come ti chiami?
So this is great because it actually just simulates a conversation between two people, and what I'm doing is learning the proper pronouns to insert during this conversation. Babbel uses short 10-minute lessons that are made by actual language teachers, not like an AI or an algorithm. And like I said, they present the lessons in such a way that it's conversational, comprehensive, and very easy to learn. And it really works. University studies have shown that 15 hours of Babbel equals a semester of college Spanish, and they offer lessons in 14 different languages. Babbel can get you speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. Babbel has a few different subscriptions to choose from, including a lifetime subscription. So if you're interested in learning a language, this is a great opportunity to try it out. Click the link in the description to get 65% off Babbel today. Back to the Easter eggs. Then we get a taste of the political unrest leading up to Indian independence and the partition. The revolutionary passing out pamphlets name checks Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of the independence movement. Now, if you want to learn more about him and the partition, I highly recommend the film Gandhi, starring the MCU's own Trevor Slattery.
Don't hurt the face, I'm an actor.
The title cards of this episode are my favorite of the season. The first one shows a tattered British flag, symbolizing the end of their colonial rule. Now notice it's the only title card in English. After this, the cards use multiple Indian and Pakistani languages, such as Telugu, Punjabi, Hindu, Tamil, and Urdu. This shows how the partition affected all the regions and sects of Indian religion. So these cards then document the partition. We see a wall with bullet holes, a field of roses like Hassan's, the red daggers, a partition photo, the side of a train, railroad tracks, and then her name across the border of India and Pakistan, a resettlement card, a Marvel Studios Presents a Sloth Baby production movie introduction card from 1947, and then we end with a shot of stars, symbolizing Aisha and the jinn, and then more roses symbolizing Hassan. So, Kamala's origin story actually began when her great-grandmother, a mystical being, fell in love with a mortal man. Now, this marriage between the earth and the heavens is also the origin story for many heroes in comics and in ancient myth. Hercules was the son of Zeus and a mortal woman. Superman gets his powers when his ship from the heavens crashes into the earth. Heck, we even see this repeated over and over in the MCU. Peter Quill is half celestial, Shang-Chi is half from another dimension, and Nebula is half your mom. Now, it is interesting that only these god-human hybrids are capable of tapping into certain powers. Ego needed Peter's DNA to start the expansion. Shang-Chi was able to use the 10 rings to their full potential, just like his mother did. So in the comics and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Kree did a lot of genetic manipulation on humans thousands of years ago, as did the Celestials before them. So the Celestials implanted the potential in human DNA for humans to gain superpowers. And in the MCU, we can say there's something in the cosmos, something unique about humanity that gives them the potential to create superpowered beings. So maybe in the MCU, there's something about the DNA of humans that works particularly well with certain cosmic energy. This would explain how Carol Danvers was able to take on the energy of the Tesseract, and how Monica Rambeau was able to absorb other Infinity Stone cosmic energy into her body.
On the other hand, it could just be an amazing coincidence.
I'm wondering if this and the connection to the Jinn and the Bengal will be explored in the movie The Marvels. Hassan is played by famous Pakistani actor Fawad Khan, known for many Pakistani and Hindu movies and TV shows like Humsafar and Kapoor and Sons. Aisha is played by a famous Pakistani actress and singer called Mewisha Hayat. So when Hassan sees her, he quotes the great poet Rumi.
When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about.
And then he pulls another quote from the same poet, although not from the same poem.
What you seek is seeking you.
So this quote has a lot of symbolic importance for Kamala and for the show. First of all, it's written on the bangle, inscribed there by Aisha's spell. But philosophically, this is saying that you will attract what you put out into the universe. That if you are meant to have something or to be with someone, then that person is also out there searching for you. Now in Kamala's case, we can apply this to her family heritage. She's always seeking answers to her past, trying to reconcile her New Jersey Western life with her Pakistani roots. But we see that while she was seeking answers to the mysteries of Aisha, Aisha was also seeking her, calling out to her in the future to save her daughter in the past. You can also apply this to her mother. She left Pakistan to find a new family in America, but all along it was her own mother who was seeking a connection with her.
You liked them as a child, so I just kept them around just in case you came back.
So Aisha goes into hiding with the flower farmer. The clothing she's wearing in the fields is actually how her daughter painted her in the last episode. So she's hiding out because she either believes the other Jinn are dead, or she never really wanted to go along with their plan to destroy reality so they could get back home. Or actually, more likely, once she meets Hassan and starts a family, she no longer wants to destroy Earth, so she hides out from Najma. And by the way, this also means that this
That was the last time we saw her.
was a lie. I like the way this scene was edited alongside the broadcast, with Aisha calming down her daughter by saying, "I love you."
To remain calm by saying, first and
Pretty clever. So Hassan is being persecuted for being a Muslim minority. See, when India first gained independence, many people, including Gandhi, wanted it to remain a unified state. But there were also cultural differences that the British exploited during their rule, so the country was divided into two, resulting in one of the largest refugee crises in human history. And of course, in this show, the Jinn are refugees of a sort. They're unwilling to accept the partition between these two worlds, so Najma wants to destroy Earth so her people can reign supreme. Very colonial of her. Remember, if she returns home, then the consequences would be catastrophic.
If you help them go home, some things might go boom.
Then we see the partition, which is absolutely heartbreaking, so tragic. The British by this point were broke from the war and just wanted out of India as soon as possible. So they didn't help relocate people, and the result was a violent free-for-all of millions of people crossing borders on foot. Terrible time. And in the middle of all this suffering, Aisha is killed, but she summons her great-granddaughter from the future to aid her in the past. And I know this kind of breaks the time travel rules of the MCU, but I'm going to explain how all of this relates to Endgame, Loki, Interstellar, all of that at the end of the video. When Kamala creates the Trail of Stars, she says, "It was me." And there's actually a symbolic meaning here. She is obviously talking about how she was in the story that her family told.
She followed a trail of stars.
Right back to her father.
But also, she is the reason her family was getting on the train to begin with. All of these people are trying to build a better life for their children and the generations that come after. By witnessing this event firsthand, she has come to understand her family's past and the role she plays in this story. It's a touching story. But then we get the final action scene. So, back in the present, the portal Aisha opened to the past is still open and the Jinn are ready to re-enter their world, even though they were told that it would take 2 Bengals to open up the portal. So, the first one, cannon fodder, dies right away like she drank from the wrong grail.
He chose poorly.
But then Najma, for some reason, thinks that it's going to be different for her.
I can make it.
And we briefly cut to her mom learning about Find My Phone.
Like spyware for parents?
Before we get back to this really bizarre, rushed ending, Kamala appeals to her.
You have Kamala!
And like 5 seconds later, this happens.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Sorry, it's actually this.
You're right.
And maybe when she says,
You're right.
She's actually realizing that there is no way she could enter the portal alone. So what she does here is she sends her essence into Kamran. This explains why Kamran is suddenly able to use his powers, which, by the way, are bioluminescent like they are in the comics. I think that Najma's plan is to take control of her son's body and then force him to open the portal, because if she controls him, and she has access to that sweet, sweet human hybrid DNA that she can use to open the portal, and she won't need Kamala's bangle. This would also be the inverse of what happens to Aisha. She calls out to Kamala for help, but in doing so, she empowers her great-granddaughter, whereas Najma only wants to exploit the younger generation for her own benefit. Very colonial of her. Now, I do love that as soon as her mom shows up and sees that her daughter has superpowers, the first thing she says is,
Who is that?
she wants to know who the boy is that her daughter's spending all this time with. And man, nobody can keep a secret identity in the MCU. In her comics, her mom actually figures out her identity months before Kamala tells her, but she lets her reveal the secret in her own time. So when Kamala says goodbye to Kareem, she says,
"He'd be really proud of you."
Who's he talking about?
the guy she met for 5 minutes 1 hour ago.
Oh yeah, him. I like him.
I did too. Kareem gives her his red scarf, a way of saying that, hey, you're a protector of the universe like us. But also, it's one more piece of fabric that will become part of her new suit. In fact, the scene ends with her mother discovering her broken necklace.
It's Kamala's.
But now, this broken piece looks like the Ms. Marvel lightning bolt logo, meaning dignity, and it's part of her full identity as Kamala Khan. So, what do you want to bet that her mom makes her final superhero uniform for the next episode, reconciling the two worlds into one suit that honors both the past and embraces the future? And then 3 generations of women are reconciled, with her mom once again reiterating her love for Bruce Springsteen.
It was Bon Jovi.
Back in Jersey, Kamran runs into Bruno for help and realizes he's been saying his name wrong.
Oh my god, I genuinely thought your name was Brian this whole time. Oh!
Which actually I thought was a nice touch, because I'm sure a lot of white people get Kamran's name wrong all the time. Then Damage Control shows up, accidentally explodes something, and I bet that everybody's dead now. The end. The credits song Tu Jhoom is a really nice Punjabi song that talks about accepting one's entity. The lyrics relate to Kamala's journey in this episode. I am satisfied with myself. I am higher than what I can accomplish. I understand every single thing. I reflect my inner self. Whatever is yours will find you, one way or the other. Very apt for the 5th episode in these 6-episode formats. It also calls back to the inscription on the bangle.
It says what you seek is seeking you.
So now let's talk about these new time travel rules in the MCU.
It was me.
First of all, here's how time travel has worked in the past.
Changing the past doesn't change the future. Look, if you travel to the past, that past becomes your future. And your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
All right, maybe that's a confusing way to explain it. Basically, whenever the Avengers time traveled in Endgame, they created a branching timeline that became a new reality. In the show Loki, the Time Variance Authority polices these branching realities. So basically, the reason the multiverse is infinite is because everybody is faced with infinite decisions and outcomes every day. So if one of those outcomes exists in one universe, then it means that all the outcomes must exist in all the other universes. But what we're seeing here is a different version of time travel that does not break the MCU's rule of branching timelines. This is the flat circle rule of time travel. Basically, this means that if a 4th dimensional being were to observe our universe, they wouldn't see time as a linear line. They would see it as a flat circle seen from above. They would observe all events happening simultaneously. This is actually how Dr. Manhattan perceives time in The Watchmen.
He said you were on Mars.
I am on Mars. You and I are about to have a conversation there.
What are you talking about?
You're going to try to convince me to save the world.
It's also how the Tesseract was built in Interstellar. Future humans built the Tesseract to help their ancestors survive and become the future humans. Now, these events are not cause and effect. They happen simply because they happened, because all of time actually exists at once.
I knew I could do it this time because, well, I'd already done it. Does that make sense? No!
So this means that the Jinn and their Noor light dimension actually do transcend time and space. They are 4th dimensional beings. And this could be key in the next big battle of the MCU, which is probably Secret Wars. That will be a big multiversal battle where different universes face off against each other or against Kang the Conqueror. Beings who transcend time and space like the Jinn would be key to winning this war, because their actions do not create branching timelines for Kang to conquer. They would already know how the war is won and would work to make sure that that outcome was achieved. Otherwise, we would have a grandfather paradox and reality would be erased.
What's the grandpa paradox?
Well, it's like if you traveled back in time and killed your own grandfather, so you would never exist, to go back in time and kill your own grandfather.
I see.
So Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit?
But if any of you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments below, or you can @ me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.